there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the card that we are going to be creating with all of this gorgeous shine on the front, and this is episode number 3, the final one in a 3-part series that I have done using these butterfly dies. And I'm going to start off using some Distress watercolor cardstock, and then these 3 colors. So I have Spun Sugar, Wilted Violet, and Shaded Lilac. Now I have 3 inkers for these ones, and that's what I'm going to use here, just so that I don't, it's just easier for me and I don't get my ink pads cross-contaminated, but the ink pads work perfectly fine and you'll be absolutely fine using them too. I'm adding a little bit of water and then smushing the cardstock down into these beautiful colors. I don't want to muck with it too much because I really like the initial kind of color mix that I got, so I'm just going to leave that to dry. These are the 4 butterflies I'm going to be using. Now this is the set that this series is all based around, and I have just a piece of 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock here, and I'm placing all 4 of these butterflies on the cardstock, and I've just tacked them down with a little bit of low-tack tape, and I've run it through my Cuttlebug die cutting machine. Then once I've taken it out, I'm just going to roughly pop them back in, just so that I can kind of keep an eye on which butterflies go in which places. I will need to take them out in a second, but this is kind of just for my reference more than anything, and I'll take it out when I run them through the die cutting machine the next time anyway. Now I'm just going to keep placing the butterflies around. I don't mind if they come off the edge at all. In fact, that suits me just fine because it kind of makes it feel like a bit of a continuous background piece. So I'm just going to tack them on again and run them through again. You do have to be a little bit careful because your original piece becomes kind of fragile because you've taken a lot out of it. I have dried my Distress Oxide background by now, and I'm going to take this kind of leftover piece here and glue it down. I have some Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish in this glue bottle here. The glue bottle is from Ali, and I am loving this glue bottle. It has a nice fine tip to it, so you can get really little spaces with it, and no clogging at all, which is the best part. I'm just putting it down onto that watercolor piece of paper, and it fits almost perfectly. There's a couple of tiny bits that come off the edge, and I'll just trim those off later. I will be cutting this down just a fraction, so I'm not too worried about the edges at the moment. So now, even though it seems a little bit crazy, I am going to put all the butterflies back in. And again, I do kind of feel like this covers up some of that beautiful color, but anyway, I'm going with it, and I do like the look in the end. The background piece is it is a background piece. It's not meant to be the center of the attention in this case, so I have to keep remembering that. But I did have lots of fun doing this, and it does create a beautiful background in my opinion. Now, all 4 of the butterflies that come in this die set are different, so it's not too hard to tell them apart, but I do kind of keep putting the butterflies back in the spaces so that it's easy for me to remember. And again, I'm just using that tiny little fine tip glue bottle. I guess you could add some double-sided tape or some stick-it adhesive, that kind of thing, to the back of these butterflies, and that would make it easier, but honestly, I just found the liquid glue just as easy. So you can see it is all finished now. My panel is all put back together, so to speak, and as I said, the edges don't quite match up absolutely perfectly, but I'm going to trim it later, so that's okay too. Now here is the card that we made in episode 2 of this series, and if you haven't seen it, then look at the previous video to this one, and you'll be able to see the tutorial on how to make that. But I had the LOVE letters left over from that, and I just kind of got another idea of what I wanted to do, so that's how this card came about. I actually die cut 2 more of each of the letters so that I am able to stack them up. But with these ones, I'm going to use the Wilted Violet, and I've just put a little bit of adhesive down on this paper and attach them to it, although they do kind of come loose, just so that I can fully ink up these letters. Now you could definitely use coloured cardstock, however I am choosing to use the white ones and the Wilted Violet so that I can get the exact kind of colour match to the background. Once they are completely saturated with colour, I want to dry them off really well because I'm going to use them now. I want to use the purple ones as a shadow. So as I said, I've created kind of a busy background, so to speak, and I want these words to really stick out. And the way that I'm going to do that is by creating the shadow. So all I'm doing is putting a little bit of glue on top of the white ones and then offsetting them. I'm putting the white one a little bit up and to the left of the previous letters. Now you could choose either way, whether you wanted to go up and to the right or down and to the right. It doesn't really matter at all, because they all create this kind of drop shadow. Just make sure that you do the same direction with each one of the letters, so that they just look the same and it's nice and uniform, I guess. So I've put them all together and they are all looking quite cool. I really do like this kind of effect. It's very easy to achieve and it kind of packs a lot of punch and definitely makes them stand out off the page. And then I have this thank you die. Now these two kind of layer up together. I don't need the thank part of this. I just want to use the you part. So that's all I'm going to take out for the minute. And with the bottom skinnier one, the U was separate anyhow, but it is attached with the top thicker one. So all I'm going to do is just cut it with my scissors and you would never know. I'm going to do a similar thing with this U because I want, again, I want it to kind of stand out from the background that we have created. So I'm doing almost the same thing and using that wilted violet to cover the more bolder, thicker U, and then I'm just going to adhere the thinner letters straight on top. And that definitely, I don't feel like they take over the page, but they definitely stand out and don't get lost in the background this way. Then after this, as I had mentioned earlier on, I'm going to cut down the panel just a little bit so that there is a nice white border from my 110 pound Neenah Solar White card base that I'm going to use. So I'm just cutting off about a 1/4 or an 1/8 of an inch of each side. So it's just a tiny wee border that will be around all 4 sides in this case. And what I did think as well, seeing as I'm going with the theme, I am going to actually ink up my card base as well. Now I have put a scrap piece of paper on the inside of it and I'm holding it down like my life depends on it so that I don't get any of this very purple, bright, dark ink anywhere else on this card base, because that is definitely something that I struggle with. So it looks like a bit of a hot mess, but I promise it's going to come together all just fine. And this is always a little trick that I do when I'm layering up things. I have my double-sided adhesive and I just pull back a little corner of each one of the outside and then I release that whole little piece in the middle. This way I'm always guaranteed to have perfect layers lined up. So that way you can see that it really makes the kind of background that we created stand out from the back of the card. You don't have to do that step though with the purple inking. I just think it makes it stand out really nicely. Now it's just a matter of putting everything together really and finishing up. I'm going to use this beautiful skinny thin foam tape from Alina Crafts on AliExpress as well. And I got those giant letters, the LOVE ones. I will have those linked down below in case you're interested as well. And I'm just putting foam tape behind the those 4 letters and not totally covering them, but enough so that they will have be nice and stable and not be able to kind of sink down anywhere in the letters. And then they don't quite fit across the card evenly, hence why I am offsetting them a little bit, but I kind of think that adds to the look of the card and makes it a little less boring and straightforward too. So I'm eyeballing this. I mean, some people like to measure it and make sure it's all perfect, but I find if you just sort of take the release paper off and just sit them there, you have the ability to shift them around gently before you kind of press down. You do have to be really gentle about it, but in general, you're able to move them around. And as I said, I'm just eyeballing it and kind of making sure that they look right to my eye anyway. Then I'm going to use the liquid glue to adhere down the little U words, and after that I'm going to add some glitter pen to the LO, the V and the E, and that creates a beautiful shine to these letters. You should be able to see it when I am turning the card at the end. And I also have the links for those down below in the description box in case you're interested. Also, I have the link to our Facebook group. You're welcome to come join that. We have the most amazing supportive community in our Facebook group. And I hope you enjoyed this series. This is the last one of it. Let me know what you thought and your favorites and what you will give a go. And thank you so much. I will see you in my next video. Thanks. Bye.